Hello, hi. My name is Matti Tahvonen. I work as a developer advocate here at Vaadin, and today we are having a webinar with Simon Mabel from Zeroturnaround, and we are talking about XRebel. So, XRebel. Yeah, like X. Like, yeah. So, what is XRebel?
So XRebel is a new product which we Zeroturnaround released last year, and it's a lightweight profiler for developers for their web applications. So today we're going to be talking about and in fact looking at how XRebel can fix problems at the developer stage, which might not be seen until later on in the life cycle of your application.
So without XRebel, you would be using some tools like counting your queries from the server log, or using some kind of heavy profilers or visual VM or something like that.
Yeah, what's more likely is the kind of heavyweight profilers which you typically see closer to the production side of things, which essentially pick up those kind of problems way too late, and it's way too expensive to fix those.
To fix them at that point.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
Yeah. So the idea for XRebel is that you have it running on all the time when you are developing your application.
Yeah, so when it's at the developers hands, the idea is those kind of these bugs that we'll find will be picked up during development time. A developer won't push those bugs into their code repository. That technical debt won't be added, and as a result, these bugs won't even find themselves in the code repositories. They're already eliminated before that happens.
Yeah. And it can find typical problems like with too much kind of backend access, like SQL queries.
Absolutely. Should we go through these? So we're looking at these slides. We've talked about us, right? We're both developer advocates. This is a cool time to be coding as a developer advocate, right?
Two technical persons doing marketing.
Two failed developers doing marketing now, right? XRebel, I mentioned it's a lightweight Java profiler for web applications. It needs to be kind of distinct from existing profilers. We're not the heavyweight profilers which typically get run later in the cycle. We have a USP, a unique selling point, which is that we run during development time. And we do provide that real insight during development. It runs within your web app, within your application, so that you can see, as you're testing your web app, you can see the problems being brought to the surface. So today we're going to look a little bit about the XRebel installation and configuration, how you actually get it running on your environment, and then we're going to be demo heavy. So we're going to look at a Vaadin application.
Real Vaadin applications or demo applications.
Yep. Yeah. And we're going to find some problems.
Yeah.
We're going to find the problems from using XRebel. We're going to go into the code. We're going to debug the problems, fix it, and then see those changes instantly in XRebel.
Check out XRebel like it's supposed to be in the action, really.
Absolutely. And we're also using XRebel. So as we make the code changes,
they will pretty much show instantly.
We can see them instantly. So there's no reload, no redeploy as well. So that's going to be cool. Yeah. Okay, so how do you install XRebel? It's really, really simple, actually. For XRebel users, it's even simpler than XRebel, which is already very easy. You just download the zip archive from xrebel.com/download. You unpack it to a certain place on your hard disk, and then you simply add the -java agent argument to your as a JVM property to your JVM. So if you're in an Eclipse, you just add it to your run configuration, or if you're at a command line, you just literally add this to your Java command.
Maybe we could check it out from my NetBeans.
Let's take a look at your.
So I have actually Wildfly here, which I'm going to use on the demos, and there I can open the server settings, and there is I think it's on the second platform tab here. So here you can add some virtual machine options, and there I have defined the memory settings, and then I have the Java agent from the jar file that I have downloaded from your site.
Awesome, and that's all you need. Once you next restart your application, it'll be there and attached to the JVM. That's pretty much it. And there's also a link there at the bottom to grab our documentation if you need to. So, what do we actually find? App level issues, okay? So we have things like potential latencies in your application, problems with your database access, HTTP session problems, including the typical session bloat, which is your HTTP session getting larger and larger and unmanageable, and also hidden exceptions. So, Matti, why is my application so slow?
I cannot say that.
No?
I don't know, but I would claim the database, of course.
You would claim the data. It's a dark art, right? When you see performance, is a dark art in itself.
Yeah.
Trying to understand what is the latency, what is the slow part of your application. It could be one of many things, but the important thing is, the question mark, the little guy there leaning with the question mark.
Fix the right thing.
It goes to someone who's trying to diagnose something, a doctor trying to diagnose, trying to look at things, and that's what XRebel provides you. It tells you a number of things, including if you have too many database queries, whether they're too slow, you might have web service issues, excessive resource loading, or it could just be inefficient application code. But we need tools to understand exactly where to look. And of course, one of the classic issues is the N+1 selects, which really does
Hibernate.
scale up. Yeah,
I think
Hibernate
each Hibernate users have seen this lazy initialization exception or the similar thing on Eclipse Link. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and this is essentially.
I usually fix it by making it eager.
Yeah, and we'll see this actually. We're gonna show you what this actually means. But essentially, you're doing a select from an owners table, for example, and then you do select from another table whereby you are using an ID from your original select. And this can really scale depending on the size of your tables. And we're going to see some of these problems.
Yeah, so typical one-to-many or many-to-many relations.
Absolutely, session bloat. So how large is your HTTP session? Do you know how large your HTTP session is? Do you even have a clue? It's really hard for developers to understand when they develop their code. Just because it's functionally working, does that actually mean they're not they're putting too much into their HTTP session? It can become a serious issue at a production time, or when you scale up, perform load testing. Yeah,
when you suddenly have 1,000 users.
Exactly, right? When you scale something up 1,000 times, it's going to be a problem. So XRebel can find these, and it can find it at development time. Exceptions as well. This is one of the big pains that I've seen in the past, whereby you see a log when there's a bug report that comes in. You see a big log, and 95% of those exceptions are just spurious exceptions.
Yeah, and most
of
the stack trace is something that you really don't want to see.
Yeah, right. And you're trying to find a needle in a haystack as to what the exception is. So what we want to do is eliminate all these exceptions which are being created and not used or thrown away, but or printed to the log, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna what should I say? That's pretty much it for the slides. We're gonna jump into the demo now, and we're gonna look at many of these issues that we've talked about. Now for this demo, you're gonna be running the code. And,
I have some
server.
typical Java EE applications with Vaadin, and I have the XRebel connected to the Wildfly instance. So now you can use my XRebel.
So so XRebel is attached to your server via a Java agent.
So typically it would be so that I would be using my application from localhost, for example, if I'm developing it. I have my phone book application, and then XRebel jumps in there.
And if you close that now, I can come to mine, and I can grab my Google Chrome, refresh this.
Yeah, so I'm the expert on Vaadin code, and you are on the XRebel. So in this case, we will be working so that Simon is using the XRebel, which is running on my machine, and I'm trying to fix these issues.
Let's do this then. So normally, just to repeat, one developer would have their development environment and their test environment all locally, but there are two of us, so let's use that, shall we?
So XRebel is typically used on development time and not on production.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here's our phone book application. This is the first Vaadin application which is running on this Wildfly application server, and I refresh this page and we notice, we get a whole bunch of information back. But if we look at this XRebel toolbar, this is the widget that gets rendered on the server side and passed back to the browser as HTML.
So XRebel kind of hooks into the application server and injects some magic there, which injects one iframe there. And
exactly right. And so now from this iframe, I can see a whole bunch of...
No browser plugins needed or anything.
Absolutely not. No, this is entire pure HTML. So I can see what happened on that last click on that last request. And I can see that on that last request, just getting this small amount of information here, we've hit 64 IO queries. And I can click on that to dig deeper. And let's have a look at what we can see. So here on the right-hand side, in this little orange box, we can see a little number 61. Let me increase that just in case.
So that's...
We can see it. We can
see
it.
Quite a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot for that page, right? So let's dig into this a little.
We basically have one listing and then assigning one book from book editor.
And we have 3 pieces here, 3 selects, and XRebel groups together SQL queries which are similar.
Yeah.
So we have 3 here. One where we do a select from our phone book entry.
Yeah, that's
Fairly-
probably the listing there.
Fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
But then we have 30 requests here. And what that's doing is that's going into, in this case, phone book entry. What's this looking into? It looks like it's looking into the groups. Is that right? Yeah, phone book group. It's doing an inner join on the phone book group. So we're getting phone book group information where our phone book entry is 34, 33.
So for
32.
each row in the table, we are fetching phone book group into it.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
This is an n+1 issue, right? And also, if we look at our second set of 30, what we're doing is we're going to we're using that same information, phone book entry, and we're grabbing out some address information.
Yeah. So we actually have two n+1 issues there.
2 n+1 issues here. So if I come back out, we can see that the information is here. We have our group information on the right hand side, and we have that address information, name, number, that kind of thing. Address is here. So that information is being pulled out. It's an n+1 issue, 64 queries. Matti, what do we do?
I think the typical fix for this would be to create some kind of join query there. So if you really need to get those many-to-many relations or one-to-many relations there, if you need to get those loaded, then you probably want to make some kind of join. You can do it with some Hibernate-specific APIs, or then you can manually write the join query there. But in this case, actually, if we look at the application, we don't have that information available, these groups or addresses, only on those which is selected. So I think in this case, can you show me the place where it's actually coming from?
Sure. So if we go back to my screen, we can see from this select query.
Yeah. So that's made from main view and list entries.
Yeah, main view init, which calls list entries.
Yeah. So main view, and let's go to list entries. And then if we get to the service, so this is the service, and we can see some queries here. But what we actually want to change in this case is the actual entity. So let's take phone book entry, which is the entity, and check it out. So, like I said in the beginning, this is what I usually do with lazy query exceptions. I just hide them with eager loading, and this is the bad thing to do. Obviously. It's another problem here in the local environment where the database is small, and actually it might be a very good solution for many business applications where you have a pretty moderate amount of data and not that many concurrent users in your application. Go with it, but if you need to optimize it, that's not a good thing to do. Never. So now we have a new version.
Okay. So if I refresh my page.
Yeah, okay. Now there is even more queries because we populate the data.
There we go.
Okay.
So now I refresh my page, we're down to 6. Okay, so this is better, right?
Yeah, I think it's much better. Actually, my wildfly has gone wild. Let's redeploy the application or even restart the server. We have been preparing too much.
We have been preparing too much.
Too many redeploys.
Yeah. So, moving from what was essentially happening with our eager was we were looking at our entire phone book.
Yeah.
We were grabbing every single entry from that phone book, and we were grabbing the address, and we were grabbing the group information up front. So now we've moved to eager. Are we ready?
Yeah. And let's reload it once more. Now we should get the planned exception. Okay, now the XRebel is okay. Now reload. Okay.
There we go.
And now because I changed it to eager, and it's selecting one of those addresses to the editor where it's actually needing that data, so that's why it doesn't load. So
so we now at least we've got 4 IO queries, but there's a reason probably in that we've got an exception. So here on the left-hand side, you can just see on my my screen there we have an exception. I can click on that, and here we can see some information. Now you'll notice there's a huge number of pluses here. And this is super important because what we've chosen to do is mask all the uninteresting pieces of the stack trace, because you don't want to see pieces of stack trace which have no relevance to you. And we've done that in the config. So if I was to click on here in our settings, you can see that we've filtered our application packages. If I was to delete that and hit save, we'll go back and we'll see, okay, there's a huge amount of
I wouldn't know where the actual issue is
where
now.
do you start? I can tell you the actual issue is
the
here.
issue is in my application.
Exactly, the actual issue is there, but it's it's a bit masked. So what we do is we just add org.example, hit save, and we come back here, and we see it straight away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So main view, edit entry.
So yeah, main view, edit entry. That's where we need to start looking.
Yeah. So let's go to edit entry. So here we are actually fetching a new entity from the database just to be sure that it's up to date. And then we are passing that entity to the form. And that's actually in the form we saw that it was actually using these relations. And that's why, because it's a lazily initialized view, it will fail there because this is out of the transaction already. So we are using a stateless AGP there, so it cannot anymore attach those relations. So we need to, in this case, let's go to the backend service here, and we could do here modify the query that we do to the backend, but I'm using my famous Hibernate skill and get the addresses and call size for it. So this is in the session within active transaction. So that's why now Hibernate makes the loading here. So now we'll load addresses and groups like that and save it. And now we should have all the fields attached to the entity when we actually load the actual entity for the editor.
Okay, so let's go back to me then, and let's reload this.
Reload.
See what we can see.
Now it works.
Okay, here we go. So we have a phone book. We have just 6 queries now. I can view them here. Everything looks good. We have our session data, which is around 100K. That's absolutely fine. And now, every time I click on these, you'll notice
there are 3 queries.
SQL increments.
Yeah, so each time when you select the one row, it will fetch the relations. So not before. So now it's lazy loading the relations.
And we're more in control of our application. We only load things as and when people want to actually see them.
Yeah, and now the database access is slow.
Awesome.
Database is usually actually when you are scaling your application, you can pretty easily add front-end servers there. Lots of them. If you have lots of users, then you can just put 10 wildflies there in the front, but you can typically have only one database, or at least there is something in the database cluster that will need to hold the logs, and when you are actually updating or adding some fields there, then database cannot really scale that well. Reading can be, of course, optimized pretty well with the clusters of things like Hazelcast or some kind of proxies there, but the actual write process, that's pretty hard to do. So that's why it's important to optimize the database.
Awesome. So you happy with this app now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have this other application.
Let's move on to this GPS app.
Yeah.
So let's minimize this XRebel toolbar. Let's have a look. Should we click on geospatial?
So the geospatial view. So this is actually.
Oh, look at that.
This is actually just an example that I hacked together for this webinar specifically. So we have actually all the GPS waypoints from our sailing trips.
This is your personal yacht, right? This is your personal
No,
boat.
it's actually not my personal yacht. It was, we had a kind of a gift for employees by Vaadin. So we had a small tiny sailing boat, and we were sailing a lot with it in the summer.
That sucks. Zeroturnaround just gave us a private jet each. I can't believe you shared a boat. That's terrible. Okay. Oh, well, that's awesome. Yeah. And have you been out on it?
Yeah. Actually, this is my trip.
That was your trip? Oh, okay, cool.
Which is there by default. So you can kind of check the dates and it will show you the waypoints there. But there is also this list view. This is pretty well optimized, but
So
let's go to that view. So this one is a bit more trickier. So we are trying to list all the points that we gather from the summer in a one UI component.
Right.
So someone could argue that it's not a wise UI design either. It's hard to scroll there to the right place, but it's what people do, and this is just kind of an extreme example from it. So we have something like 51,000 points there, and we loaded them all to the Vaadin UI. Then when you scroll down, you can see that the JavaScript lazily fetches that from the server.
Yeah.
But the problem in this view by default is that everything is there in the memory.
Yeah, yeah. And we can, what we can do is, we can load this again.
Yeah, it is slow.
It is absolutely slow. I can dig down into the SQL, and you can see there's only a few. In fact, there was one previously, but there's only a few pieces of SQL being driven. But if I open that, we can see this one piece of, and we can see here it's JPA that's being driven. Yeah. This one select statement, select you from update, blah, blah, blah.
And one massive
51,455 rows of return data.
So if you're expecting this much data in your database, don't list that all in your UI.
Absolutely.
That's freaking stupid. And there you can see what else.
The session data here, over 30 meg of session data, and it's growing so big that session browsing is temporarily disabled to stop yourself from hurting yourself, basically. So
I don't even want to know how much memory it's using.
So what do we do?
There are actually lots of different kind of tricks that you can do, and we can go through them all. So I have prepared some strategies to overcome this kind of memory consumption and also CPU consumption. So we saw that it loaded really like something like 5 seconds or something.
Yeah.
So let's get to the list view there and check out what we have done so far in this. So this is pretty much typical thing that Vaadin developers do. They just fetch the whole list from the service layer and then put it in the bean item container, which is the default Vaadin component that you use to bind your database entities to UI or any whatever backend service that you have. And it has lots of features, and that's why it's using lots of memory. And if you want to list 51,000 points, don't use that one. There is actually some add-ons that are commonly used. So this one is using, let's uncomment that one also, like that, and import, and what's this? So this is using a different kind of container. It's actually using a different table implementation, but it uses by default list container. It's a lightweight container. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of bean item container, but it doesn't consume that much memory. So if we just close this and try it, and now try to refresh it there. Okay, try again.
Okay.
So
we're down to 15 meg.
Yeah, but that's still huge.
It is still huge. Interestingly, I can actually open it up now, and I could dig deeper into here, and I can actually, have a look. But at some stage, there's going to be a hell of a lot of
if you want to list all those 51,000 entities there, I think your browser will crash.
Let's not do that.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention is we knew exactly where that code was, where we can do this, because this is the demo we created. For those of you who don't, and you see this exception and you want to know where to jump to your code, in this output you can actually see every single piece of IO query has its not stack trace necessarily, but the roots, the core, the area
and only the relevant parts there.
Yeah, exactly, only the relevant parts. So we here have list view.init. That's where we're going to be. That's where we're going to be working. So 15 meg still needs work though.
Yeah, definitely. So no matter how hard if you optimize that, if you have 51,000 entities there in the memory, you will have them in your memory. And if you have 10 users, then they would consume something like 150 megabytes. You can still manage it with actually with today's efficient servers pretty easily, but you don't want to do that
because you mainframes, right?
So Vaadin JPA container, that's actually one solution. So if we look at how you can use that one. So here we have a JPA container there, and I'm injecting the entity manager there and init the JPA container with update entity, and now JPA container will do everything for us. It will also have lots of features, and it will do lots of different things, but it should be very memory efficient.
Yes.
So there shouldn't be too much overhead. So
okay,
try that.
So let's try this. So I refresh this. And okay, looking loads better. Memory-wise, we're down to 219K in total for the session.
Although we are listing 51,000.
We are still listing 51,000. Whoops, I've just done that again. There we go. Let me do a refresh on that. So yeah, pretty low for that. SQL query-wise, we're still up to 39 queries.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of JPA, and you can see all the entity manager.finds in there.
Yeah. So in this case,
relatively quick. But there's a lot.
Yeah, those are fast queries. It's fetching the entities by their ID, so that's fast. But
it's fast, but it's hard to scale when you get that many queries, right?
Yeah, don't do that either. This is the de facto solution that's pretty much used in. This is actually not our official add-on, but lots of Vaadin users are using it, and our experts are using it in our consultancy. So this is lazy query container. It's written by one Java expert from Finland, but not working for us. And this is actually very efficient. So all you need to do is to write one implementation for query factory, and then it will practically ask you for the size of the listing, that how many entities do you have in this listing. Then you will need to load the items as pages, like as a pages query. So practically you will pass the start index and count to the database layer, and it will just add a limit query there. And then you can also implement a whole bunch of other features, but this is just for listing in this case, and in many cases you can do with just listing, so let's go with that one.
Okay.
And try that.
Should we try that one? Oops. There we go.
Oh yeah, you were on the wrong view.
What happened?
Okay, you have some exception there.
Have a look at the exception.
What's the exception?
Okay, in list view init, unable to invoke list view init.
Let's do a wildfly restart. I have no idea why it's failed. That should be just fine.
I wonder if there's any, I don't know.
It's always a bit hard to work.
Might have been worth a resave. Maybe sometimes only part of it went through or something.
Yeah, I think I just hit save in some wrong place.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Let's try it again.
Okay.
Yep. Okie dokie. And now go to the list view.
Click on list.
And now we can see that there is only 2 queries.
Okay, 2 queries. Yeah, that's pretty good.
And memory efficient, under 200 kilobytes. So it uses less memory than JPA container, and it makes only 2 queries, which is pretty okay already. And let's just check last strategy for lazy data binding in Vaadin.
Okay.
So this is actually something that I wrote 2 weeks ago when I first started with XRebel. So this code is kind of a simplified version of the lazy query container. So you can just take the service and pass it only those 2 methods that you actually need. So you need the size and then you need some kind of method to fetch the actual entities. So I'm giving the start index and then the default page size. And now it's very easy to make the lazy connection to the table, and it should be at least as efficient as this lazy query container. So let's try that one also.
Should we run this again?
Yes. No, the wildfly really doesn't like us today. What the
These open source servers, hey?
So what's your favorite application server?
I'm a big fan of Tommy, actually. They're kind of Tomcat ++.
Yeah, it's very lightweight, and
it is very lightweight, and it
I'm eagerly waiting for Java EE7 version of that, because they still don't have all the bells and whistles that Wildfly has.
It's coming, yeah. There's not many EE7 compliant servers out there at the minute, but it's certainly coming. Also, Liberty Profile. I don't know if you've seen the IBM Liberty Profile.
I've been working with that also last autumn quite a lot, and I like it also.
Yeah.
It's very fast, and you can select the services that you actually are using, and that's why it makes it to start very fastly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we've run it again. We're still down to 2. Memory, very good, 63K.
Okay.
So this is really cool the way we can actually iterate through many times and actually see, as a developer's point of view, what's actually likely going to cause these problems.
And now if you scroll down,
and if we scroll,
now it loads the new data from the database, and you will get 1 or 2 queries there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can still see that the queries are quite slow, actually.
Well, let's have a look, and we can actually see. If we run through here, we can see that we have one JPA query which grabs count u from update. Count u from update u. Let me grab that again.
The count queries are actually pretty problematic with relational databases, because they have to kind of go through all the records, because there are some partial lockings in the table. So we probably cannot do anything for that. There are some strategies if you want to optimize that, but then you would need some kind of cache where you keep the count all the time.
Well, the interesting one here is this one's returning about 45 rows, and it's 40 milliseconds.
Yeah.
This is quite heavy.
Yeah, let's try to optimize that as well.
Okay, so this is doing looking on the timestamp. It's doing a order by timestamp.
Yeah. So let me open the same view and copy paste the query, and let's execute it there. So it's this one. No, that's the JPQL. So this is the native query. So I can grab this one, and now let's get to the NetBeans, and then we have the database configured here, and then execute command and do this query. But in the beginning of this, we will write explain. Explain. So this will kind of give us some kind of information about the query.
Okay.
In Postgres. So now we can see that it actually. Can I zoom this in? Okay, not too well apparently, but it will show us that it will need to scan the whole table. Because it's sorting the data here by timestamp, and because there is no index, it needs to go through the whole each and every row. So this is pretty much equal for the backend server.
It doesn't show that.
Yeah, it's not showing there. So for the database, it's pretty much the same as selecting the whole data. So we need to add an index, and let's. Typically, you would add the index into your database entity, so JPA can handle those with most recent 2.1 version, I think. But you can also write it here if you know how to create indexes. Create index, let's call it timestamp index on update table, and use column timestamp. Like that, and execute that one. I hope it goes right. Okay, so now we have an index there,
So now I can just rerun this. Rerun the fun.
Yeah, okay, and it dropped down
I can
to
see
70.
this straight away, 17. If we open this.
Even though probably the database hasn't warmed up.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see straight away that 45 rows, 4.5.
Try to scroll a bit.
Let's scroll a bit and see what happens, shall we?
We can see the delta there. So
yeah.
So very small.
Delta's very, very small. So that's super helped.
Yeah.
Down to 30. I mean, I'm scrolling so much now. I'm barely even at the first load level of last time. So this is super.
So I think this will scale like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In order of something like 1,000 to the original.
And now we can check this. We can check this code straight into our repository, and we have already eliminated all those bugs. We don't introduce that technical debt into our repository. And we're not just creating code that functionally works, but works that's going to work well in a production environment, which is key for today.
Even though the database would grow massively.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yep. Awesome. So, how's your experience with XRebel been last? It was just I think 3 weeks ago when I first downloaded the XRebel, and I think I'm already a XRebel advocate, I'd say. Awesome. Well, should we swap jobs? I think Vaadin's pretty cool. Well, one of the things that we're going to be putting out with XRebel,
I can see it's a pretty new product. There are some features that I'd really like to have. For example, I'd like to see the session data. So that I could just click it and update it, because it might change actually during the usage, not just on the initial load. And also there might be actually some kind of background thread which is adding some stuff to your Vaadin application, and then your application session might grow during the usage, even though your screen wouldn't be updated.
Yeah. So from an Ajax point of view, we're good on the I/O. So things like SQL queries as you click through.
Yeah, and that's
example,
very wise decision
that works
because
very well. I think session data is something we need to probably improve on. But absolutely. And one of the other things that we're going to be looking to release later on this year, hopefully pretty soon, is more of the kind of application code profiling. So what people are more familiar with the typical profilers, where you can see a history of where a single click actually goes through your code. And I think, back in my IBM days, I used to really enjoy using some of the profiler tools to actually say, okay, I'm running this on WebSphere. When I click this, what is actually happening? Where is my time spent in all my methods, and where can I find these bottlenecks and things like that? So application code profiling is something that we're looking to push in the near future as well.
But I think it's a really nice product, and it has lots of room to grow even now still. Don't make it too heavyweight, but keep it lightweight.
It's a lightweight profiler, and that's a difference. That's what makes us
if it's too heavy, I'm going to disable it.
Exactly right. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. And
shall we check questions or?
There was actually one interesting question about portals. So. How is it working with portlets? Because portlets are essentially, they are servlets. Behind the scenes, there is some servlet which is hosting all those portlets. So in theory, it should work.
Yeah, and we did some I guess smoke testing on portlets in Liferay before, and that worked. When you look at some of the asynchronous calls, so dropping into say an EJB container or something like that, which has its own native style thread, well not native, but its own thread pool, that's when we can't necessarily track the connections and that kind of data when it remains under the same thread in the server container. So for example, Liferay portals, then that will work just fine. Yeah.
Okay. So there are lots of portlet developers in Vaadin developers.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's something that both XRebel and JRebel can really help with.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
And I think we can actually start to wrap up. There will be some kind of code for those who signed up for the webinar beforehand. So they will get some kind of small.
Yeah, we'll be, for those of you who signed up in the webinar, we'll be sending you an email. I think we've got a shirt or something like that planned to do. I can't remember what our deal was, but we'll be looking to provide an offer. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much.